subsequent, he got counsel and submitted an area variance, and we looked into it, and it is actually an area variance, not a use variance. On that one, though, the board still didn't grant the area variance.
That it's what? Can you explain that again?
Yeah, so it's actually an area variance that you need, not a use variance. There's two types of variances you can get.
Okay, so we were under the impression that this was going through clearly prior to this, and that it was approved also before the board. And so I'm not sure what the use and the other variance is, if you can explain that, so we can follow through the proper procedure.
So the procedure would be, after the meeting, to go talk to the code office and get the form for an area variance. And you would fill that out and submit it. And then it would come back before the board. I'm not saying the board would necessarily approve it. I'm just saying that it's a different standard that's actually more favorable to you that the board would apply.
Okay, so, okay. We've been doing this for a couple months, and it's unfortunate that we didn't realize this information prior to coming up to today. And so we've been really wanting to make, steps forward to doing the proper procedures. And so now this is kind of unfortunate for us to do this again. So if you would just let me know again where I need to go for this to move forward.
Yeah, I'll talk to Chris.
They did come to my office, they've been through planning board, got all that approval. I'm the one who sent them for use variance, when they came through, we could not figure out how to get it to an area variance. So I'm very curious of how you get it as an area variance.
Yeah,
It was my office and I to direct them to the use variance.
It's fine, it happens, and I understand the confusion, but we ended up researching it a couple of years ago when it came in front of the board, and it actually comes down as an area variance, because you're requesting relief from a dimensional requirement for these types.
So what area variance are?
So I can talk to you
All right.
later with the applicant.
And you'll talk to us then later, Chris?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I apologize, I'm the one sending it down.
Right, correct. That is correct. Yeah, the information we thought was good.
They had a whole thing a couple years ago where they went through on the wrong one, and that was before your tenure, so not necessarily be something that you would have been privy to.
Anything else then?
I don't think there's anything else. In the past, I know Ed had mentioned that this came before us on Ridge Street, and it was restated as an area variance, but it did not pass the board at the time. I don't recall the vote, but I believe, if I'm going back to it, the feeling was that what the applicant presented, parking in front of a residence, did not fit with the character of the neighborhood, if I recall.
Okay.
And I think we directed him to petition the city about parking on the street.
Yeah, I'd like to mention also, I mean, we're a two-car family, and the house is next door to, the one house next door to ours is a family-owned residence. And so there's no room for garages or really or driveways per se. So we just want to make sure we follow protocol and do the right thing so we can expand for our parking since we can't park on the street.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
So. Thank you.
Yeah, so for the record, I'd just like to note that use variance 21-0029 is going to be withdrawn and resubmitted as an area variance after consulting with code enforcement. Next up is area variance 21-0030 patent property development, owner of tax map number 302.20-8.5.2, commonly known as Glens Street, looking to build a 20-unit apartment complex. Can you state your name for the record?
Chris Patton, Patton Property Development.
Please go ahead and share with us your plans for this project.
Sure. Yeah, we're here tonight looking at a potential build on for a 20-unit apartment complex. I've met with the mayor and a couple city officials, and this was a spot that they really sought out development. We had several meetings, and I actually met with the mayor most recently just to kind of discuss where this project was headed. Once you can see in the letter that I submitted here, in regards to density, we had originally anticipated the property site being about 26,000 square feet. Once we actually got the survey of the property, it ended up only being about 23,000 square feet. So their interpretation of the density in the multifamily and residential area was not only the area of the property, but also the gross floor area. And that's defined in that letter that I submitted as well. So adding gross floor area to also the actual parcel area, we came up a little short. But we needed 50,000 square feet, so 2,500 square feet of area for density per unit. So 2,500 times 20, we had 50,000. We actually went through, and if you guys all know the parcel, it's a completely paved parking lot. So as far as green space, there's none. As far as permeability, there's zero. So we were actually grandfathered in to not even not to build any. What we've done, part of my submission here is, we don't want to see a parking lot just back up to a 20-unit building. We've actually provided some green space areas. We submitted spots for where they're going to be able to plow snow. We have separation from the original parking area from the Heritage Street parking lot with several islands with trees. So all these things are above and beyond. Once we were done with that, in addition to having a smaller lot than we originally anticipated, we had to provide 31 parking spaces per the R&D zone, 1.5 spaces per unit. So we actually have an extra space. We have handicap spacing. And we've also submitted to you guys just a concept. I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that this is concept only, that the drawing that I submitted was just the rendering of the building. We'll go to planning board for that stuff. But again, once we added the floor area of the units as well as the gross area of the property, we came up a little short. So we're looking for just a density relief so we can build our 20 units. I think the mayor is behind us, and several of the other people in the city here would like to see this property developed. I've spent several days there and several hours, just kind of perusing that parking lot. I really want to clean it up. I mean, it seems to be like a pretty wasted parcel in the city. I don't know. I can't really speak as to what kind of events go on in the evening, but I can tell you that once we're done there, adequate lighting will be provided, camera systems, closed doors, zero entry type, entrance to the apartments. We're going to provide beautiful units, hardwood flooring, granite countertops, the whole nine. So we're really looking to develop in the city here. I'm sure everybody followed my other issue downtown, so I'm hoping to get something going here.
Question for you. Knowing that area, it's a big parking lot, and I see your project here. It's 100% paved now, so there's no green space on it.
That's correct.
How much green space will you be adding into this vacant lot?
Oh, I couldn't speak on actual numbers, but as you can see on each side of the property, we're planning on keeping the fence there on the left side on Goodwin, just as a privacy buffer. It's an 8-foot fence there. We don't plan on removing it, but I would like to paint that fence like a nice black color, just so it looks clean and new. And then we had several trees identified there. Again, I couldn't speak to a percentage, but what we did is we met all of our setbacks on the side and front and rear, and then whatever we had left, we turned into green space. So we'll actually be removing and plus if we have dogs or whatever, we want to give an area for them to, an area of refuge or whatever for that. So yeah, I can't speak to the percentage though, but I know it's greater than what's there now for sure.
So this is going to be a PVC fence down the side, around Goodwin?
Sorry, no, there's a pre-existing fence there. It's an 8-foot steel fence that we'll paint to look brand new. So we don't plan on removing that fence on Goodwin.
Have you spoken to anyone in the neighborhood regarding this project?
Actually, yeah, I have friends that live on Goodwin. I was speaking to them tonight. They were a little concerned originally until they knew that I was a developer. Once I told them exactly what we were doing, as far as the quality of the units, what we were planning on doing with the parking lot and cleaning up the property, they were super happy about it. So I know a couple other people that own properties too on that street that would love to see it improved.
I will say this board has received numerous opposition letters from people in that neighborhood, and I think additional outreach and communication with other people who live on that street would be very useful and helpful.
Well, we have several steps to get to our building permit. I'm sure I'll be dealing with that for sure. Yeah, and again, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that this rendering, was something that was just very preliminary. It'll probably be in the newspapers. Here's another patent rendition, but I wanted to show people, this is what we're going to be trying to do. But stone and nice shakes in the gables, and so not that we're really at an architectural review stage yet, but I just wanted to show you that we're certainly going to clean it up. I find it hard to believe that anyone would have opposition to something like this.
Has the project size changed since the letter that you attached to your application?
Yep.
Sounds like
Yeah, so
the
unfortunately,
survey came back different
Yeah.
size, but the actual project's changed too.
yeah, and the interpretation of the density code, really, the only reason why we're here is because I don't meet density. Everything else, as far as green space, permeability, all that stuff is grandfathered in, so I don't really need any other variances. So basically, the way it's read is that the larger the building that we build, the more units that we can build. Everyone here knows that that's kind of a little backwards. I chose to build a smaller building that would conform more with the neighborhood, and for that reason, I'm being penalized in a way in having to get a variance for density. In addition to the fact that I've added green space, I've made the parking lot, adequate, and I've allowed for areas for plowing, and I've thought about a few other things, and that actually made our building a little bit smaller. Because of that, that's why we're here tonight.
So you could build, this area is zoned multifamily.
That's correct.
So if you were to build a much larger building that met the 2,500 square feet per unit, you
There
would
would
not
be no
be before the
variance.
zoning board.
Yeah, it's a little backwards.
I want to be clear, there's not enough space for you to build your 20 units of required gross floor area.
No, that's incorrect. We could build, I could certainly increase the size of the building. But when you start to look at it from a constructability standpoint, financially, everything weighs in. And this is what we ended up. We wanted to give people, an area for their dogs. I didn't want to, because I don't have to provide any of that. I really could just park from toe to toe and build a larger building, build it both, deeper and wider, and then we wouldn't be here. But I wanted to, improve the entire area and kind of separate my building from the existing long, strawed out parking lot. I wanted to have a nice island with, curbs and trees, and, that's why we're here.
I can confirm that the original, I don't know that it ever went to a sketch plan, but the original discussion about what the building size might be, then the code office issued an opinion letter saying that if you build it that big, you would not need any variances. And then when you decided to just look at the size of the building and shrink it down a little bit, it actually, it's strange, but it actually requires a variance because now the smaller building doesn't comply.
Yeah.
Well, we should maybe look at the intent of that neighborhood, which is, multifamily housing, and building these smaller units.
Well, they're not
It's
small.
allowed for family. Well, you
They're
could
not
make
small.
one bedroom.
No, they're not small. There are
How many
10 two-bedroom units that are almost 1,200 square foot per unit, which is larger than several homes that I've built in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this isn't about necking it all down. The reason why I'm here, serious, is because I wanted the overall project. Because I look at it just like you look at it. it's a parking lot toe to toe. I don't want, when we're done, I could just leave it that way. I could just build a building on that parking lot. I mean, it says I can. I could build 14 units and I wouldn't even be here. But I want to improve the whole neighborhood, and wait till you see when we're done. I mean, it's going to be nice.
Where's the, where do you plan on putting this now?
Sorry?
Where do you plan on putting this now? What's your?
Oh, you see the paved areas there where we're not. See the areas in there. Here.
Oh, okay. So there's no accident here?
No, that's exactly it. And that'll kind of help us to, kind of keep our building separate from Heritage Apartments. We didn't want to have any, our tenants are going to have their space and they'll have theirs.
There will be drainage there or something? I just don't see it.
There's drainage right through the parking lot right now. You see it. Passageways here. Open for drainage.
Okay.
Yep. As well as on the side.
And is that gonna be sloped to go to this, or when this stuff melts?
Yeah, I mean, this will go to the street. Or
Okay.
Or the engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, again, we're 100% impermeable right now, so
Yeah.
what we're adding is, we're adding, probably I'd say at least 10 to 15% permeable area, which is certainly going to improve everything.
I feel like a lot of my questions are better for when we ask, but I do have one. On this map, map drawing.
Sure.
Do you have people going, like, is there an exit from the parking lot to Goodwood? Okay.
Nope. And part of the reason being is because on Union Street up until Harlem, that's a two-way street.
Yeah, it's very.
So it makes perfect sense. And to exit, we don't want to, we don't want to add all this traffic, and we don't want any through traffic. Right now, they have through traffic, so we're really improving on many aspects of this parcel. So
So there's no access to the project from Goodwood?
that's correct. Yeah, and I've sectioned it off with, the curbed areas with the trees, so that way they can't just pull in my parking lot and zip through. It's going to be very much a sanctioned area, and also, cameras and everything.
So that there will be separation from where 32 Fifth and the other areas?
425 Heritage.
Someone isn't going to be able to just cut through and...
No?
Right, because I just came in there today, I just went in there today.
Sure, check it out.
But I went in through Goodwood and.
Yep.
By 32.
Yeah, we're going to stop that, which will be
Oh.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have signage and cameras and lighting. It's going to be very much privatized to our units.
So the people accessing these apartments would come on Union Street, would not be on Goodwood?
That's correct. Which I think is a positive as well. I mean, in their access to downtown, which, everyone knows I'd like to build some units downtown. This is as close as I can get. So, their access is right from Union, right to Harlem, and they're right downtown, which Harlem is a nicer street, well lit, and we plan to just improve on that as well.
Are you planning on doing anything with the sidewalk on Goodwood?
On Goodwin, if I don't have any intentions as of right now, but if we need to, I take that back. I'm positive that we will have to do some kind of construction in that area, whether it be sewer or water or gas. Whatever we disrupt will be better.
It's in rough shape.
Yeah, if we can improve on anything we can, we will.
In those emails, the only thing that I see was that they had some concern about construction and how the traffic's gonna get through there and stuff.
We'll be 100% secured. We'll have our own laydown area.
And that,
Just to make sure we address it.
we'll address that. Any questions? I think that's it from the commissioners. I'd like to, for the record, note I have 4 letters that were emailed to me, one from a Frida Toth, expressing her concern over this project, and I'll have that entered into the record. There's another one from Luciano Sorrento.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Luciano has turned in favor. I was speaking with him this evening. That's what I was talking about.
Okay, for the record, I'll have his letter added with the note Mr. Patton has shared that he has changed his view. Another one from Rosalie Carlson, again expressing concern over this project, have that entered into the record as well. And finally, a Megan Kramer expressing concern over this project that I would ask this be entered into the minutes as well.
Jeff, did you forward all this to my office?
Yep, I think, oh, okay, I thought you were on the email earlier, but yeah, I can send it to you. No more questions from Mr. Patton. Are there any questions from the public? If there is, Chris, I'll ask you to step down and let whoever else come up. If you would step off the dais and have a seat.
No, no problem.
And when you come up, please state your name and your address for the record. And I would note as well that there are a number of issues raised in the letters here. A lot of the issues having to do with sewer issues, runoff, drainage. Those would all be addressed by the planning board. The zoning board is not, that's not within our purview. So we just want to let everybody know if they're making comments over that as well. Go ahead, state your name.
Deborah Berman. I live at 36 Goodwin,
Okay.
right across from the parking lot. I guess one of my main concerns is the traffic. Goodwin is like a racetrack between Glen and Bay. And even though he says people are only going to be accessing on Union, I'll tell you right now what's going to happen. People are going to come racing down Goodwin, turn onto Bay, turn by Cumbies, and race up to the parking lot. Because that happens constantly. Goodwin is a narrow little street. It's terrible in the winter. That sidewalk across from me is a mess. So if they're not going to do any improvement on that, that's going to still look terrible. I just think it's, I haven't seen the plans. So I don't know, but I just think that road is so busy now that with this added traffic, it's just going to be crazy.
Can we please forward these comments along to the mayor and the safety board?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment from the public on this application? And again, if you state your name and address for the record, appreciate it. Thank you.
My name is Frida Tote. I live at 18 Goodwin, where I've lived since 2002. We don't need any more traffic. It's completely false to pretend that adding more units than we already have houses on the street would not affect traffic. As Debbie says, even if there isn't an entrance from the apartment building to Goodwin, the traffic would still be affected because of the pattern of one-way streets. The application also stated that the apartment building wouldn't affect the looks of the neighborhood, and of course it would. There aren't any 3-story houses on Goodwin. And as far as being multifamily, yes, it's zoned multifamily, but most of those houses are single family. Every one of them is recognizably a 100-year-old house, and the apartment that is now Heritage Apartments was originally built in 1905. A new building will not fit into that neighborhood. A 3-story building will not fit into the neighborhood. And the light pollution from such a new building would be detrimental to the families who are already living there. It is not justifiable to sacrifice a living community for the money that would be gained from this project.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Flagg. I'm the Director of Economic Development for the City of Glens Falls. I just wanted to say for the record that both the Mayor's Office and the Office of Economic Development support both this project and the variance that Mr. Patton's asking for. As everybody knows, there's a fairly substantial housing crisis in the city right now. I'm becoming less and less concerned. I'm becoming more and more concerned that it's not temporary. There may be sort of systemic changes in the post-COVID world that we may have to address as far as housing. We're a very space-constrained city, obviously 4 square miles. So in many cases, we need to sort of try and maximize the density that we can. One of the things I think one of the things we're looking at here, and I think you have to keep in mind that, you know, with all due respect to the folks that are talking about, the only real question in front of the zoning board is whether or not Mr. Patton is going to make this a large building with more coverage on this space, or a smaller building and have sort of less, at least, aesthetic impact, right? The idea here, I mean, I think it's fair to say that if he's maximizing the density of the lot, which is, right, 100% covered with pavement right now, maximizing the density of the units he can fit, which is a good thing, and at the same time optimizing the amount of sort of open space, whether it's green space or parking space or what have you, it would seem to be the best of all worlds. It's a sort of a perverse, and I know we've talked a little bit about this particular category of zoning. It's a little perverse that the smaller the building he makes, it increases the open lot area, and sort of being penalized, potentially penalized for it. So, as I said, I just wanted to go on the record in saying that from the city's perspective, this is a project that we're really encouraging. You know, this small little area is zoned for multifamily units. If you look at the zoning map, it's a fairly small area along with the property right next to it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Flagg. We certainly appreciate everyone's comments here. I think that point that you made at the end, that if this was built larger or smaller, we wouldn't be before or Mr. Patton wouldn't be before the zoning board right now. It is permitted use within this, within the zone. Are there any other comments from the public?
Say something.
Sure. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Joshua Rouse, I live at 24 Goodwin.
Joshua.
My name is Joshua Rouse, I live at 24 Goodwin. We moved there about 5 years ago, 4.5, and like within the first 2 months there, I don't know if anyone remembers, a boy was stabbed to death. Cumberland Farms is the only store in the whole area that is open 24 hours. So if you were to build another building, you're giving cover for more crime. All right, and you say you're gonna paint this fence so people can actually gather behind there. All right, I have 2 children, I have 3 children, I have a little girl. And I'm nervous. I don't even like letting them go outside past 8 o'clock. And this is terrible. This is Glens Falls, New York. We should not have to worry about this. And I don't see how building another 20 units would help the crime in the area at all. I haven't heard anyone mention crime once. Green space is a big thing and it's important, but I'm worried about crime. I'm worried about someone else getting stabbed or someone getting killed in that area. And it could be one of my children. All right, over time, it hasn't gotten any better. Granted, no one's been killed, but cops literally sit across the street and just watch the area. All right, there's no way possible you're gonna tell me that 20 more units is gonna help that. I'm in fear for my children. I don't care how much money it costs. I'm in fear for my children. Not to mention, Megan, who lives next door, has 3 kids of her own. My kids can't play outside. You know, not to mention, that's just the crime. You got people zipping down the road. I'll be damned if someone hits one of my children. Put your children out there. For me, I'm completely against it. And right here, you see 5, maybe 6 families from that street. There's 14 houses. I mean, our opinion should come into play someplace. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Patton, would you like to address any of the comments or concerns you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I've literally spent some time there. I'm not sure if you guys all have, but I spent quite a few hours looking at the property and looking at the crime and the stuff that's going on. And really, I don't witness anything, but I do witness the aftermath. I see the needles. I don't know what they're for, but I see them all over the ground. I use so in my head, I know it's taking place. On the very part that I'm going to be building one of the newest and greatest buildings in our city, brand new. I did mention earlier, we're gonna bring cameras to that area. So in regards to crime, we're gonna address that by offering our videos to the city police, like we do all the time on our building downtown. You know, lighting, I know you talked about lighting interfering with people's, you know, your living, but no, we're not gonna shoot lights into people's house. We're gonna light our parking lot. We're gonna bring cameras in there. We're gonna add green space. We're gonna stop thoroughfare traffic. We're going, you know, we've addressed that by, if anything, we're gonna be stopping people from traversing across that entire section of our parking lot. We're gonna stop people from walking from Cumberland Farms directly across this dark, little dreary area, which I wouldn't walk in at night either. But I'll tell you, once we're done, it's gonna be beautiful, and I'm gonna make sure that you can't access this area. The reason why I'm leaving the 8-foot fence is because I can't get granted an 8-foot fence on the property boundary now. I wanna stop people from walking through. I want only our people that live in this building to be in and occupying that space. The units that I build, if you know anything about me, you know, that's what I do for a living, I build homes. You know, it's hardwood flooring, it's granite counters, it's stainless steel appliances. We're not catering to Section 8 housing. We're not catering to lower income. Not that we don't have, you know, we have units for that, but we are catering to the young professional or older professional, whatever. You know, these are $1,200 to $1,500 units. We're trying to improve the neighborhood, and I guarantee you're going to be impressed with what I do when I'm done.
Mr. Flagg referenced the housing crisis and lack of affordable housing in the city as part of his department and the mayor's support of this project. What is your median rent?
Excuse me?
What is your median rent?
You'd say lack of affordable housing or lack of housing?
I'm not speaking as affordable housing as Section 8 housing, I'm speaking as affordable housing as housing for the workforce.
I have apartments downtown as low as $800 a month. I have some at $1,300, so our median, I would say, is about $1,000.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that would be, you know, concurrent with what I have here as well.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I got.
So, knowing we have 4 commissioners here this evening, that makes whatever we vote, we have to have unanimous vote, one way or the other. Is there any feeling of the board right now?
I have no problem with this. Again, I respect everybody's opinion, but just let me say, I'm in emergency services. So, I forgot your name in the back, sir, and apologize. But, I mean, I ride on an ambulance. I pick people up on the side of the road. I pick people up all around the city. I mean, crime is crime, you know, but Mr. Patton's saying he's gonna put cameras in there. It's gonna, you know, greatly, you know, I just can reiterate what he said, you know, just the lights he probably plans on putting in there are not gonna be shining in your eyes. I have them on my station, and they don't go on the road. They stay on the property, so I can attribute to what he's saying if he's gonna be putting these lights in. So, crime is everywhere. I live here in the city. I live in the 5th Ward, so I have crime in my area. I understand. I complain to safety all the time about people flying down South Street. It's a constant issue, so I get it. I walk down South Street. You'll see me walking on the side of the road. I walk on the road. It's everywhere in the city, so it's not just, you know, Goodwin. I've been down Goodwin a million times, lived here my whole life, so I understand what everybody says, you know, and in one way, you know, they're one-way streets, you know, I don't live on, I mean, I live on a dead-end street, so, you know, there's only one way in and one way out. I think it's gonna be good for what he's doing, I really do.
So, I know we're going around sort of pulling the board here.
Yeah.
My question is, so what we're looking at is the difference between the 2,500 square foot versus the 1,700, it goes at 68 or something square foot. What is the density at Heritage? Do we know what that is? Does it meet the 2,500 square foot? It's right next door.
I would ask, I'm not aware of it. As far as I know, that was built, it was pre-approved, it was pre-existing as a high school, and it was converted back in the 1980s, so I'm not privy to what was done, and actually the density requirements requirement may not have even been in place then.
Have you read the density requirement in RM?
Could you say that a little louder?
Have you all read the density requirement in RM? 22014 F, how it's worded?
Yeah, I guess not.
You need to read it because it makes no sense.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Just to touch on that, another recent project that the density was not met was 42 Hudson, a brand new project. I don't know if you guys weighed in on that or not, if you were on the board, but that was another one that didn't quite meet the density. So I mean, this is not something that's new. I think the city, and Chris can probably attest, and even Jeff Flagg, is really seriously considering rewording or revamping the density requirement code as it is in the books. You probably already talked about that as well, Mr. Fitzgerald.
My understanding is that 14 Hudson was granted a zoning variance on the density requirement.
Yes. I'm just saying another recent project that's been down the same path.
It's a little bit different wording in
In the
that
CD,
zone. Yeah,
right.
This residential multifamily is worded differently than all the other zones.
Well, all that being said,
That is
I would be in favor of the variance.
Mr. Gannon?
I would say that in our city, infill and increasing density is generally a good thing, especially on an underutilized site such as this. A lot of planning studies have shown that reinvigorating a site such as this does actually decrease crime, and I think you're correct on that stand. A lot of the public issues with this will be dealt with at site plan review and architectural review and through the secret process, specifically referencing the historical character of heritage apartments. So as far as the area variance is concerned, the relief sought here is not substantial, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt.
Thanks.
For the record, this is listed as this is for seeker, it's unlisted, and we'll conduct the review. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with the adopted land use plan and zoning regulations? No, small impact may occur. Will the proposed action result in a change in use or intensity of use of land? No, small impact may occur. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No, small impact may occur or small impact may occur. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level or traffic affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No, or small impact. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy if it fails to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No, or a small impact. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies, public-private wastewater treatment facilities? No, or a small impact. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater waters, air quality, flora, or fauna? No. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No, or there could be a small impact. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human death? No.
So that's the end of the initial questions, which, just for the minutes, are being answered with respect to just this request for relief for the density requirement. The planning board will conduct its own analysis on the actual project. So based on that, you would then need a motion to make a negative declaration of their secret.
So I'd like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Zoning Board of Appeals hereby accepts lead agency status for area variance 21-0030 patent property development owner tax map 302.20-8-5.2 known as Glen Street. The board has determined this action is unlisted, is an unlisted action, has reviewed the short form environmental assessment form and upon documentation and discussion, issues a negative declaration. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor, aye? Aye, motion passes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I would like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grant the application for area variance for the project identified as area variance 21-0030 patent property development, owner of tax map 302.20-8-5.2, located at Glen Ave as presented at the meeting this evening, July 19th, 2021. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by granting this variance. No, the applicant could actually build a larger project than what's envisioned here and would not need the relief in the density requirements. Whether the benefit could be sought by the applicant could be achieved by some other feasible method. The applicant could build a larger project to meet the 2,500 square foot per unit requirement. Instead, he's choosing to do a lot more green space and build a smaller project. It does not appear to be substantial as it's a relief of 752 square feet per apartment. I don't believe that this variance will have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And while this is self-created, again, I think the intent here is Mr. Patton could build a larger project which is approved in a residential and multifamily district and would not need to come before the zoning board for a variance. So while it's self-created, I think it's with the best intent to develop the property in a better character for the neighborhood. And so the relief being granted would be from the square foot density, so we would be granting 752 square feet of relief per unit. Do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, roll call vote. Commissioner Older?
Aye.
Shannon?
Aye.
And I vote in the affirmative, aye. Motion carries. Thank you everyone for coming this evening.